What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. I haven't been making videos for a while, and that's mainly because I'm very busy. But today I thought, since it's been, well, it's coming up to the end of the year, I'll just do one now. This won't be edited. It'll just be me talking and giving you a bit of a update on certain things. But mainly talking about this enclosure that I have built. Just because I haven't been around on this platform does not mean that I haven't been very active surrounding myself with reptiles. I currently have multiple new species that you haven't seen before, including my larger reptiles like my Tegu. I have a boss monitor. I have multiple other turtles that are rescues and rehomes, as well as a brand new endangered species, the fly river turtle. But today, in this video, I want to just talk to you about this enclosure I am in right now. This is my Argentine black and white Tegu's enclosure, which you just saw me hold, who is currently just behind me using the heat bulbs. This enclosure is 10 foot long by 6 foot wide, and it's roughly around 7 foot tall in the highest point. It's in one of my sheds, and this is all custom made. I'm building it myself, designing it myself, and doing everything just by trial and error, really. So I thought this video might be kind of interesting for people who might want to do this themselves for their larger reptiles. You could apply this similar rule to other large monitors and Tegus with minor changes. I won't be showing you things, or I might do later. It won't be edited, so I'm not too sure what I'm going to do, so please bear with me there. Including the lighting, it's probably not the best because I am in front of some light as well. So starting off with the front of the enclosure, there are two 4 foot by 4 foot panels of glass held in place by pieces of wood either side, allowing me to slide them through and stopping them from falling out. They're reinforced, so the Tegu can't jump into them and break them. The actual walls are built out of wooden framework, and then I have a large plywood panels that I have cut and secured as well, and then the electric outlets are just behind the back wall with a flap that's screwed on, stopping the animal from gaining access to them. The entire room is heated with a large electric radiator. This is safer than the other types of heating methods. The only issue with them is they do like to dry out the air, so it can be quite tricky keeping the humidity. But that is always 30 degrees at the lowest. However, the Tegu can withstand much lower temperatures, being an animal that can actually go into hibernation. The substrate for the enclosure is actually a mixture of a sandy soil. There is actually 3 metric tons in this enclosure, and it allows the Tegu to burrow very well, making really deep burrows, which is a natural behaviour in the wild. However, it does create quite a dry substrate along the surface, but if you go deeper down, it does get wetter and creates a nice humid area in the burrows as well as allowing it to be cooler. So the ambient temperature in this enclosure is 30 degrees like the entire room, but if you dig down, it's cooler, reaching around 26 degrees. In some places in this enclosure, we have things like the Cypress Mulch, This will allow a bit more humidity if I do need it. During winter time it can be a bit more drier, so I have that as well. And I do have a water area for the animal to gain access to, help it soak and shed. This gets replaced every other day, and then I have another water dish which gets replaced every day when I do spray down the enclosure. For the core, I just have pieces of wood, very soft wood that the animal can tear apart and look through if I hide bugs and other enriching items in there. I have rocks that are good for their claws, and then I have a fake plant in here as well with removable leaves, which you can see on the camera now. Now this is very good because the animal does like to climb up it, tear down the leaves, excuse me, and then use them in his burrow. I can take them up, put them back on, and then it will be another enrichment thing for him to do every once in a while. And it does occupy his intelligent brain. It's very necessary for such an animal. Heating and lighting wise, it can be quite a task to do that with such a large enclosure. Now the whole room is heated by a heater, being the whole shed as well, as it's insulated. I do keep other animals in here. However, specifically for the Tegu, to create an ambient heat, or sorry, a gradient of temperature in here, we have a heat area behind me here, which you can see. Now this is actually 3 separate bulbs hooked up to 3 separate outlets, avoiding any form of problem with fuse blows, so the whole system doesn't go down. And it also allows me to keep just one light on at night time if it does drop down below a certain degrees, just in case, and offering the animal somewhere to go if it needs to. Now originally I went for halogen spot heat bulbs, which are a preferred method for large monster keepers in America. However, when I used them, I found they did not last as long as I wanted them to, only around 3 to 4 months, and then they would tend to burn out. So instead, I've opted for a middle bulb, which is a ceramic heat emitter, which a lot of the time I just leave on overnight as well, because it does not produce any light. However, it does allow a bit more heat, just to make sure the animal's okay and fine. And it also has 2 large basket spot bulbs. Now these are the zoom head power sun bulbs, and they're the 160 watt, I believe. Let's have a look. Yes, 160 watts. Now these produce both heat and UV B light, so it's beneficial to the animal, both the temperature and for its bones and metabolism. I have 2 of these. However, the D3 part and the UV part is just an added bonus, as I simply bought those bulbs because I know they last a long time. These bulbs I will not replace when after a year or so, when the UV has run out, mainly because I want them for just the heat, and hopefully that will last well over a year. For UV for the animal, he does actually have 2 Pro T5 UVB bulbs from Arcadia overhead, so there's 2 of them lined up that go straight across the enclosure, covering the entire thing, ensuring that the animal has some form of UV lighting at all times. Just having a dig. His diet mainly consists of well, an omnivorous diet. However, he does like a lot more of his meats. The vegetables and fruits consist of chopped romaine lettuce, carrots, and then he has fruits such as grapes, kiwi, papaya, watermelon, and the occasional other fruits as well. Meat-wise, he has whole prey items such as rats, chicks, and large fish bought at the local supermarket. And then I also offer him other food items such as steaks on occasion, just to mix it up. And then he has insects as well. To ensure that the humidity does stay up, I do spray this down at least once every day. It does not have to be that much or that tricky. You just have a little spray and you come and spray it. To improve on that, you can get the mist systems. It's just for such a large enclosure, I haven't had the time right now. However, I do plan to do something very similar to that, whether or not that is getting something like a Mist King, or just doing what I did do in the other shed, where my bosk is, and just have a hose hooked up all the way around the top, and then pinprick holes around, so then I can just plug the hose in, turn it on, and that will mist the enclosure. Saves me going around and spraying it myself. I just have to twist a nozzle, and then you've got water. But yeah, I don't think I'm forgetting anything else. Really, I mean, I've waterproofed the whole thing. There is a animal safe fence paint that I've used on multiple other enclosures, which gives this nice brown effect, as well as keeps the wood from warping and going a bit funny. But I can't wait for my Tegu to get to its maximum size, which he should do in this enclosure. However, I like to slow grow my animals out to ensure that they are healthy. Alright, so this is the Tegu and his enclosure. I hope you did find this somewhat useful. I'll give you a tour of the other shed. So if you stay tuned, I'll quickly go and show you that as well. But this is his enclosure. This is how he goes about his day, and he's pretty good. Oh, another thing is that this enclosure doesn't actually have a floor. It goes straight down. It's just the carpet from the normal shed. However, I have got a very large tarp that goes all the way around the bottom here, so it's actually waterproof. It holds the dirt and all the moisture, keeping the lower area safe. The animal can't dig out, of course, because it is carpet, then wood, then concrete. So this is a shed. But if you don't have a deep enough enclosure, he will try and tear that up, as I have learned in the previous enclosures, being the 8x4 enclosure. He actually has about 1.5 foot of depth in the enclosure of soil, which offers him the right amount for him to dig down in. So yeah, I'll give you a tour of some of the other stuff. Alright, so here is a quick appearance for the fly river turtle. He's only a baby. I believe he is a male. He's got a vet checkup in the next couple weeks just to make sure he's okay, and I'm also going to get him microchipped. Being in quite a rare species in the UK, I want to make sure he has the best care. He's in this temporary setup right now. It's a 4 foot by 4 foot pool pond with a filter and everything he needs. It's just in the middle of the shed at the moment, so not the most ideal, but it's a very cool turtle, and I couldn't pass off the chance to keep the species. Okay, so here is the other shed. This one's the larger 20 foot by 10 foot shed. It's all work in progress still, but here is the Varanus exanthematicus, also known as the bosk monitor. You can see him just there. work in progress again, but this is one of the older enclosures, very similar to what the Tegu was in before, and it did serve its purpose perfectly. It is a minimum size for these sorts of animals. It's just I wanted something a bit more enriching for the Tegu, being that I want to work with him more rather than the Boss Monitor, which prefers to be left alone a lot of the time, as they get stressed out quite easily. However, I do need to build a door for this cage, which is what this wood's for. I'm just going to chop one here and build it, because right now I vault over it. To keep the humidity up, I mean, it's heated all the same way, and lighting is all the same as well as the Tegu. I have a humidifier constantly going. That keeps it around 79 to 99% humidity. And right now it's 31 degrees in the room. Hot spot, much hotter than that. We have a walkway here, just in case I splash water. Not a big deal, it just gets on this wood here. There's a Testudo marginata, Teliqua gigas, the Indonesian blue tongue, that's Bindi, in her enclosure. Very simple, T5, it has a halogen, but as I mentioned before, they do tend to break, so I'll be replacing that with another bulb very, very shortly, most likely in about 2 days' time when everything opens up again. Yeah, that's her enclosure there. We have an agamid species, the Chinese water dragon down there. This is a cage that really does need a redo. It's very temporary at the moment, because recently I had a flood and the bottom area got a bit ruined. So I'm going to just tear out the whole bottom of that, reline it, add a bit more substrate, and have a bit more of a substantial water area for her. And then a nice big fake plant in the middle there. But right now it does serve the purpose. T5 again in there, and it is a 6 foot tall, 4 foot long, and 3 foot deep enclosure. In here is the turtle pond, and as I just mentioned, it did have a leak, which is why it's only halfway full, because it is around this section here. And instead of repairing it, all I'm going to do is I'm going to basically hire it up a little bit more and then reline it with 2 liners. That should be perfectly fine to ensure that it does not leak. Has a nice land area. This is 2 foot by 4 foot deep or land, and then 6 foot by 4 foot of water area. Filtration for this is a large pond pump, which pumps the water into this large box here. In there we have biological filtration of a large sponge that holds all the beneficial bacteria, and then we have a bit of mechanical filtration there. This will crystallize the water. I did just recently feed them chicks and rinse that through, so it is a bit murky, but it is very crystal clear when it wants to be. In here currently we have a Mississippi map turtle. We have a brand new Cooter turtle, which I got as a rehome, as well as a yellow belly slider that was also from the same person, and another yellow belly slider which was brought to me by my vet, that was found outside. So they're in here, and soon I might be getting a couple other turtles that might be for rehome, because people always have turtles that they need to get rid of. But this is a very you know, average thing. It's very large. It's an 8 foot by 4 foot space holding these turtles, and it's sort of broken at the moment because it's leaking. But once it's, you know, repaired, it will be as good as it was before. After I've repaired it, my next plan of action will be to secure it with metal mesh, similar to the Chinese water dragon's enclosure. In fact, pretty identical. I'm going to have pillars going up with framework, then have the mesh, and then a door here, and maybe another door there. I might even have glass sliding doors, and in fact I might even move the Chinese water dragon into this area with large bits of vines and branches for it to perch on, because it will be a perfect enclosure for such an animal. leaving more space for another animal in that cage, which I can quite easily use. Lighting and heating wise, we have a 100-watt Arcadia D3 Plus bulb. It serves its purpose for these guys. However, I do want to offer T5s in all my enclosures, but for now this will be more than adequate. And then we have the tortoises. They've just eaten some papaya for Christmas, and these are Testudo marginata, the largest Mediterranean species. We have 2 in here. One's a definite male, and I believe the other one is the female. If you do have a female available, please let me know. I'm interested in another female, so I have a 1.2 ratio. Alright, so that is basically my setup. The boss is out. He's a bit chunky at the moment. He had a very large meal, as it was Christmas. He will be fed depending on what I feed him. If it is just a couple insects, he gets fed once a week. But after a very large meal, he will go a whole month without food after that. And that does suffice him quite a good amount. He is constantly growing, even though he does appear still small for his age. However, I'm a big advocate for slow growing the animals, and hopefully I have him for a long time compared to other monitor keepers or Bosc monobranus exanthematicus keepers, because they do tend to get quite obese and grow too quickly. But yes, so this is the little update. I do have other animals, of course. This is not all of them. This is just a small selection. But I thought I might as well give you a little bit of an update of these guys and the setups during the winter periods. Yeah, if you got any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer them. Alright, thank you for watching.